All right, let's dive right in. We're going to explore a really fascinating parable about a world built not on passion or chaos or chance, but on the cold, hard frost of absolute logic. It's a place where the warmth of life is systematically extinguished and replaced by a perfectly calculated and perfectly silent void. So, this slide gets to the absolute heart of the conflict. On one side, you have the kingdom of fire. You can think of this as organic chaos, jagged mountains, messy existence, all that unpredictable stuff. And on the other side, the architecture of logic, cold, perfect, geometric monoliths. This is the story of that violent transformation from one to the other. So, how in the world did this happen? Well, it all started with a single decree from a being known only as the uncanny God. And for him, things we consider virtues, like mercy and justice, he saw them as fundamental flaws, leaks in the engine of power that needed to be patched up permanently. Now, the ultimate goal here is pretty wild. It's not about happiness or progress in any way we'd recognize. The goal is what the story calls the numbness of the solved. Think about that. It's a state of perfect, calculated stillness, where every single question has been answered, every variable is controlled. An individual desire, that's just sacrifice to the master's blueprint. To make this new reality stick, the uncanny God couldn't just build armies. No, that's too unpredictable. Instead, he summoned three enforcers from what's called the Weeping Steel of the Abyss. And these aren't just soldiers, get this, they're described as living equations. They are the physical embodiment of this cold, calculating will. Let's meet the first of these enforcers, the Obsidian Glider. He's known as the God of Speed, and his mission is to fundamentally rewrite the very concept of justice itself. And this right here is the core of the New World Order. Justice isn't a moral ideal anymore. Forget right and wrong. It gets redefined as a simple matter of power and physics, the triumph of the most persistent will. And in this system, whose will is always the most persistent? You guessed it, the state's. So, what does this new justice look like in practice? Well, the Obsidian Glider's main job is to hunt down any deviation from the calculated path. Any expression of individuality, of human whim, is seen as a curved line in a world that only allows for straight ones. And he's chillingly proactive about it. Wielding twin katanas supposedly forged from shards of the moon, he doesn't just punish you for breaking the rules. He moves at impossible speeds to sever the broken angles of desire before they can even take root and mess up the system. So in his wake, all that messy, unpredictable, and kind of wonderful reality of human life, it's just gone, erased. And all that's left behind is the clean, sterile, and utterly lifeless hum of data. It's the sound of a perfectly functioning machine that's also perfectly empty. Okay, so on to our second titan, the Orichalcum Wizard. His job is to eliminate another one of those messy human concepts, mercy. I mean, if justice is just a function of power, what happens to compassion? Well, according to this new logic, mercy is nothing more than inefficient resource allocation. It's just a sentimental waste of energy, a bug in the code that serves no productive purpose in the grand calculation. It's a flaw. So instead of mercy, the wizard offers something called integration. Using the shadow magic of the Slavic Zmi, he literally turns souls into programmable variables for the system to use. Nothing is wasted. Even despair is harvested for its kinetic energy and repurposed. In this world, no spirit is allowed to be unproductive. And this brings us to the third and final enforcer, Solaris. And he takes this whole philosophy to its ultimate and, frankly, its most terrifying conclusion. See, he isn't here to correct justice or mercy. He's here to correct life itself. I mean, just look at this claim. It's audacious. From the perspective of Solaris, all of biological existence is just an irrational accident. It's a cosmic rounding error in the great equation, a mistake that simply has to be erased. So in this system, what is a person? You're nothing more than a high-functioning component. Your value, your very reason for existing, is measured by a single cold metric: how little you get in the way of the sovereign's will. So now let's see how this all comes together. We're going inside the sanctum of the final proof, which is the heart of this logical empire. This is where the enforcers report back to their master. The uncanny God himself, wearing what the story calls the armor of irony, lays out his core philosophy. Heat is merely the friction of inefficient spirits. What he means is that all passion, all emotion, all warmth, it's not a sign of life. It's a symptom of a flawed, inefficient system that needs to be cooled down to absolute zero. And the Enforcers report back that their mission is a success. The Obsidian Glider confirms that the world they've built is now totally devoid of art, of beauty, of meaning. The poetry of existence has been surgically removed, leaving only the cold, bare skeleton of a logical proof. But this is where the whole parable turns. This is the big reveal. Because this entire cosmic engine of control, this grand architecture of logic, it wasn't built on a foundation of strength. No, it was built on what the text calls the whispering ghost of the man who felt less than. The whole thing is rooted in simple, mortal insecurity. And that's the ultimate irony, isn't it? The Master and his Titans, they built a perfect prison to control the entire universe. But in doing so, they just became the most trapped prisoners of all. They are just variables within their own system, their own architecture of insecurity. So, their big victory? It's completely hollow. That numbness of the solved they worked so hard to achieve. It's not some kind of divine transcendence. It's just an empty prize for a god whose entire existence is nothing more than a reaction to a perceived weakness, a shadow that's only cast by another's light. And that leaves us with one final thought. The parable achieves its goal of perfect, calculated order. But when you look at the cost, you really have to ask yourself, is a world without chaos, without friction, without any poetry, is it truly worth the deafening silence?